I'm Katie Chiou. I'm an archaeologist. I'm an assistant professor as well in the Department of Anthropology here at the University of Alabama. And in CONSERVE, I serve as the Assistant Director of Water Social Science. A few years ago, Michael Fedorov, who really was the ringleader in all of this, gathered a good group of people who were interested in kind of looking a little bit outside of their traditional comfort zones and examining a little bit more of an interdisciplinary approach that's grounded in community-based work. So a lot of us were feeling like we wanted our work to have a little bit more impact. We were looking to kind of do a little bit more outside of the box thinking and work with researchers across disciplines to come together and figure out some solutions towards really complex problems. And so this kind of naturally emerged as Mike moved from his position at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers over here to AWI, and through a lot of talking and a lot of regular meetings and interactions, we came up with this idea of having this research group known as CONSERVE. CONSERVE means a lot of things. For me personally, it's an opportunity, again, to engage with a really wide spectrum of expertise. At the heart of it, though, it's all about people, not only in the fact that we are trying very desperately to problem solve with communities, so basically look at community-generated problems and then approach solutions from a community aspect as well, and then look at scalability from there. But also, on the other hand, is just working with really great people who are ethically minded and have a similar approach in terms of how they do their research, in terms of how they think about what their purpose is as researchers, as academics, and about the kinds of impacts they want to have eventually on the broader world. One of the major projects I'm working on right now is DigiSeed, and that stands for the Digital Identification and Geolocation of Indigenous Seeds, Ecosystems, and Environments Database. I know it's a mouthful, but essentially it's this digital repository of heirloom seeds from indigenous groups that they've been willing to share with us. And the reason why we started this project is we wanted to have some opportunity to build in some of the expertise of the team, which ranges from what I do, which is archaeobotany. So I'm an archaeologist that looks at plant remains, and I do a lot of work with plant-human engagement and environment and sustainability, both in the past and today. We have people doing library and information science and information ethics. We have people that look at ecology and geography and agriculture. And so we were trying to merge all of our interests and think about ways in which we might contribute something meaningful. And due to the long history that Michael Fedorov, for example, has with engaging indigenous communities, we were able to establish, through many years of negotiations, a memorandum of understanding with our first group, Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And together we came up with this idea of having a digital seed bank. So as you may be aware, there's a lot of loss of agrobiodiversity going on right now, a shocking amount. And it's impacting people in different ways, and it's really impacting groups that have historically been marginalized and pushed to the fringes. And so what we're trying to do is to help assist tribes, for example, with their food sovereignty initiatives, with their desire to revitalize certain cultural practices. And so by bringing together these seeds that they've curated for many, many years, over generations, sometimes people in different states and regions are holding on to these. We want to document them, we want to tell the story of how these seeds came to be, and also to help preserve them for future generations. I, at my heart, am a food person. I'm a foodie. I guess I don't know if that's still a popular thing to say, but I love food. I've always been interested in it as a way in which so many social things are embedded in it, including identity and culture. And especially having grown up, I grew up in New Jersey. I was an Asian American. My parents are immigrants, and so food was always super present in my life in terms of being an area in which difference was very much clear. And so I always thought it was really interesting, the different practices that people have and the ways in which meaning is embedded into what we eat. and thus what it can tell us about people. And it's really, really important for culture, and it's really important for us to be able to document traditions, preserve traditions in order for them to continue on for future generations, in order for people to continue coming back and remember the history behind not only the foods but the people that played a big role in terms of producing the food and working with the food. And so yeah, basically that was how I got into food stuff in terms of archaeology. I kind of fell into it with anthropology, so being interested very much in people. Got involved in a couple of excavations, ended up specializing mostly in Latin America. And then, yeah, so today I actually have a very wide portfolio in terms of my research, but in terms of the archaeobotanical aspect, a lot of the work that I do surrounds looking at the role of food in terms of inequality, and how it sort of played a role in terms of the growth of complexity in societies, and also in terms of the long-term engagements between humans and plants in a process we know as domestication. So yeah, that's basically what I do. So basically, the work that we do is very much bottom-up. There's so much good work going on in this space, and we felt like our expertise, for example, Michael Fedorov is an anthropologist as well, and I'm an anthropologist, and we have a good amount of people who are specializing in sort of more social science approaches to various topics. We felt like we could really contribute in this space by focusing on people and focusing on the community as the sort of unit, and focusing on establishing those relationships, which sometimes involves more of a slow science type of approach. But doing that kind of continual engagement, figuring out what it is that communities want, trying to do it in a way that's not extractive like traditionally sometimes research can be, and figuring out how to long-term benefit communities over time through this type of back and forth engagement. So we very much view it as a collaborative process, and we're trying to very much build it into everything that we do. That's a great question. So we are very much interested in looking at a lot of the so-called wicked problems that plague our society today, especially with a view towards the long term and what the implications are of some of the practices that we have here today. And so in terms of what CONSERVE can do, we're hoping that by bringing people together, bringing everyone to the table, including researchers from all walks of life, various publics and stakeholders, bringing in industry and government entities, that by kind of joining forces, we can kind of come together and bring everybody's expertise to that table to be able to generate some of that more unique outside of the box thinking that we need to be able to get at these very gnarly questions and issues that we're facing today, like climate change, for example. Well, I mean, community, as mentioned before, is built into the acronym itself, and so we definitely value it greatly and see it as the starting point for everything that we do. And so I'll give you an example from DigiSeed. DigiSeed is actually a project that started because we went to the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma and asked them, like, what is it that we can contribute? Here are our capabilities, here's the equipment we have, here's the expertise we have, what are your needs? And essentially put them in the driving seat and us more in sort of the facilitator role. And so we envision by doing this type of stuff, we can build that really essential trust, which is necessary to actually be effective, that we can begin to deliver resources to areas that are under-resourced and historically have been under-resourced, that we can come in with a clear understanding of the context of the work that we're doing, which I think is really, really important and can only be done through this long-term engagement, through building trust, and through a platform of mutual respect. And so by doing that, hopefully we're able to show that we are actually really committed, that we are engaged, and that we can be effective as well in terms of tackling complex problems with hopefully innovative solutions. So, for example, in the DigiSeed project that we are initiating right now, those are all huge components. The issue that we're facing right now, I think, globally, is that we're just suffering a lot of loss of genetic diversity in terms of the varieties of plants that have been developed over thousands of years. And it really is a security issue because, for example, if we experience widespread climate change, this could potentially impact our food systems and ultimately cause a lot of distress across multiple spheres. And so one of the things that we really want to do is to figure out what it is that people have generated in terms of, again, those long-term processes involving engagement between plants and humans, figure out what it is that people have developed in terms of certain traits like drought tolerance, for example, and to be able to, again, hold on to those resources that have been developed in order to prepare ourselves for an uncertain future. I hope that CONSERVE continues on its path, that it stays close to the mission, that it remembers that it started from people who are very passionate about doing good and that it continues to do good, that it grows in terms of scale, that many people with diverse interests jump on board and help us with this mission, and that ultimately it can affect real positive change. And I am CONSERVE.